Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the podcast where we disrupt limitation and we elevate possibilities. Today, we're diving into a concept that challenges the very core of how we define leadership. Not just a title or a role, but as a mindset, a lifestyle, and a responsibility that transcends boundaries. Whether you're leading a company, a classroom, a community, or your own personal transformation, leadership is everywhere, but not all leadership is created equal. In an age of blurred boundaries between work and life, where influence is currency and impact is the bottom line, we need leaders who embody what our guest today calls 360 leadership. Leaders who owned every aspect of their identity, personally, professionally, spiritually, spiritually, and show up with excellence and not excuses. Let me share a quote that anchors today's conversation. Leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge, by Simon Sinek. But how do we truly take ownership of our lives and lead from every angle when the world demands productivity over purpose, visibility over values? That's where today's guest comes in, and I am super thrilled. It's been months in the waiting to have my sister friend and global leader, entrepreneur, and all these fantastic things that I'm going to tell you about. You see her here if you're watching us on video with a beautiful, radiant smile and a vibrant spirit. You can feel the energy coming off of her. Her name is Miss Modesta Mahiga. She is a global executive coach, business consultant who helps high-achieving professionals and organizations align with their purpose, elevate their influence, and expand to global impact. Her work spans continents, cultures, blending strategy with soul. She is the host of her very own podcast. Yes, you know, we have phenomenal podcast hosts here all the time, and she's also the author of powerful resources on leadership and a thought leader on what it truly takes to lead at the highest level, because yes, she herself has done it. So whether she's speaking on 4 levels of leadership development, from self to industry, or coaching clients through extreme ownership, her message is clear. If it's to be, it's up to me. Modesta, again, thank you for being here with us in Mindset Mastery Moments. It's so awesome to finally sit down and speak with you, my sister friend.
I am so thrilled to be here, Alisa. And I want everyone to know, before I got on, I had to ask, I said, listen, Your Excellency. Okay, Dr. Alisa Whyte, how do I address you? It's me. Just call me Alisa. And I had to ask that question because what we're going to talk about today, talking about taking extreme ownership, it's not just of driving results, but extreme ownership of who you are, what your purpose is, that you're meant to serve to the world, and how you're to be impactful. And part of that is embracing your identity. So Thank you for allowing me to call you Alisa.
Yes.
And thank you for this amazing invitation to have this necessary conversation on how we are to show up as authentic, as impactful, and I'm going to say this, as generationally mindful leaders. So thank you again for this opportunity, and I cannot wait to get into today's podcast.
Modesta, listen, the pleasure is all mine, and I couldn't wait for it, because we know we also have the I would say the marching orders that we are to do some work together, and more than likely it's going to be in us having a series of conversation for both our podcasts. So this is just the beginning. Finally, you know, our schedules are aligned.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I absolutely am so excited about our conversation. So Modesta, let's take us back a little before we dive into your 360 leadership philosophy that you've created. Give us a little background on your version of who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why you do it.
Okay. And I want to start this way. If it's to be, it's up to me. I think that's a motto I've had. And most recently, my 10-year-old says, Mom, I think keep it moving is another motto that you have in life. And I want to start this way because from when I was a child, Whenever I saw that I felt had to be addressed, whether it was inequality or just a need somebody had, and kids will see a need and will want to bring it home. Can we address this? Can we help so and so? I had this. I guess it's a mindset that, well,
It
if
is.
something is going to be done, if someone is going to address it, well, I need to put my hand up.
Yes.
So I'd volunteer, and not always being welcomed at volunteering to make a difference. I remember being beaten up by quite a few bullies for standing in the gap for other people. That I wanted them to be heard, and I wanted them not to be mistreated. And I've known, or let's say, I have accepted since childhood that if there's anything that you see that you think needs to be redressed, whether in your life, in your community, or the greater world, well, if it's to be, it's up to me. So, went from just that mindset to taking on leadership positions at school. I almost got expelled in high school as a student president because of the same philosophy, and ultimately became a lawyer, gender and children's rights lawyer, and then did the bar. But then pivoted. So I realized that the things that I wanted to stand with women and with children for, had we gone back and addressed systemic inequalities, especially in economic inequalities, do you know that there's certain things that do not happen? Well, they do not happen too, but they have less of an impact on economically empowered individuals and communities.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I realized what I wanted to take in the courtroom and represent clients would be less of a concern, or at least for less of a population, if I went back, right?
Empower them economically.
And empower them economically. And
Right.
so I shifted from, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to represent women and children and the challenges that they face. I don't want to ever see them going through that again, to saying, listen, if you were to empower them, and if you were to equip them with the skills, whether it's for entrepreneurship or even employability,
Yes.
certain conversations that are brought into these courtrooms where people can bribe and be corrupt anyway,
massively, at least,
and rob them of their rights anyway.
Yes.
A lot of these issues would not happen, because they would not allow themselves to be compromised in that way, or they would have more redresses available to them than if you were to wait until they become a victim you need to represent. So my career trajectory changed. And I initially worked in human capital development, but eventually started my own firms. And we can talk a little bit more about that, spanning from media to human resource development to business development. But that mindset shift to, you want to help victims, but how about you focus on supporting, on resourcing individuals, and empowerment then would take care of the challenges that you want to redress later on.
Oh, I love that. I love it that you switched from a reactive
Yes.
mindset to a proactive mindset of your own, and realizing where your gift, talents, and abilities would bring the most impact.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is one of the biggest pillars of self-leadership. Before you start leading people,
Yes.
is having a sense of clarity, not just of why you're here, but how can I be most impactful?
Yes.
And also dedicating that to service, knowing that with influence and impact, you will obviously generate income. And so that's where entrepreneurship came in, and you're being called by global leaders and organizations to do that work. And that's why we're here to learn from you in 360 leadership. So thank you for sharing that with us. That is very motivational, because that too was how I pivoted in my own career. When I think about sustainability, it starts on a personal level, and each individual for me becomes a well-lit lamp, that their bright light. But then when we do it collectively, now it's a whole beam that's coming, right? And so for me, I could have done, like you said, law, and working at a college campus or something. And I remember and I started off my career in preschool. It was like, and I'll say this in my Guyanese way of saying it. Before these people grow up and get hard-headed and it's hard to get them to change, let me work with young kids who
Yeah.
they're still impressionable and soaking it all up,
Yeah.
so that we don't have to make all this course correction for our next generation. So I do believe the earlier we can get them. Now, of course, I don't work directly with young children anymore. That was my time, and I needed that time because it helped me not only understand human development and human psychology, because I did study child development and early childhood education, which exposed me to a lot of the psychological principles and that forming of mindset. And really, so when I decided that my role now is to help people to master their own and then go out and teach it first in your homes and then at your job. So whether you are working as a truck driver, a school bus, a janitorial staff, you will be that light because you have that change mindset that's purpose driven. You're clear on why you're on this earth. And now you're just over here, just lighting up people's candles for them. And then they get to do the work. So I believe we're all, as one of my friends from Ghana say, we're all meat in the same pot of soup.
I believe we are. I believe we are.
So let's start with 360 leadership philosophy. You say there's no work-life divide. And I love that because I believe this is one of my own personal philosophies, and every now and then I share it. You said that we must integrate who we are in every room we step in. Can you share what 360 leadership means to you and how you coach leaders to embody it?
Absolutely. Listen, we've often been told when you're showing up in a professional context, you leave everything behind. You leave your concerns, you leave, mental, emotional challenges or tensions, and you have to show up a professional. And often we say with the hard things of your profession, right? Not the soft skills, the touchy-feely, the people and the emotions. And the reality is every area of your life impacts every other area of your life.
100%.
And the easiest thing, having had an HR background, is if people cannot manage their finances, for instance, they're taking loans, people are stealing, they're trying to maybe double up and have a side hustle during work time. So just one area, your personal finance impacts your professional productivity or your presence. Mental health will impact your career trajectory. Let's also talk about not really feeling fulfilled or being in a toxic environment in the workplace will impact how you're going to show up at home. So how about we speak to the whole person? You cannot fragment them. You can try, but one of the things that my child once said, we went to the doctor and the doctor said, "You don't really like drinking water, do you?" She said, "My body told on me." Right? Because the visible signs told on her. So after a while, who you are and what you're going through will tell on you in whatever context you're in.
Yes.
So how about we support people holistically? And by so doing, actually, you will see the dividends professionally if your focus is on their professional performance and the returns that you get from
their whole being.
Absolutely. And of course, once you say that, people think, okay, Pandora's box open, what would this look like? Where, the boundaries are getting blurred, but it doesn't have to look any certain way. It, first of all, really takes that mindset shift. I am speaking to a whole person here.
Please.
I had this conversation with a group, Econet Holdings in Zimbabwe, and this is the CEO of the group, and then all the executives of the group, and then because it's a holdings, obviously they're dealing with different businesses, and this is Strive My CEO's businesses. And after that, and it was really just a 360 leadership session.
Right.
And he was thinking, if every individual who comes to work, they've got extended family, African and a lot of our communities, right? Context,
Yes.
extended family responsibilities,
Yes.
probably maxed out financially, and whatever else is going on with them. And they're showing up at work this way. That's one
All
person.
part
And
of it.
he multiplied that and said, we need to address that, because even as the leaders, and now they're the leaders of their organizations, and often this tend to also be the leaders of their communities or their extended family. And
Yes.
they're imagining, if their companies, if their group makes up, some of the better earning professionals in their country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're basically saying almost everyone there is somebody that is highly dependent upon. And they,
Right.
in a 360 context, if they don't address this at that level, they're soon going to compromise the very thing that they set out to do, whether it's the targets for the year or it's ultimately to fulfill their vision. And so this concept of 360 leadership is something that we've tried to tuck away. Anything shows up, we'll try to address it through health insurance or take time off. But what would it look like if, first of all, as the leader, because I work with executives, you allow yourself to admit that you exist in a 360 reality. That you
Yes.
cannot compartmentalize.
Just let's get
Allow
to it.
yourself not
Yes.
to compartmentalize, just as a leader first, because you can't
As
give what you
person.
don't have.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, but maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, you ask me, like, if I were to coach, and this is just at a very high level, on a scale of 1 to 10, to what extent am I taking care of my spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, relational, financial, personal development, professional development, right? Leadership and impact. So each one of them, take them to be separate, those 10 areas. On a scale of 1 to 10, how am I doing? 10 is great. I'm really invested. I am aware that I need to thrive in this area if I am to really show up holistically as a leader.
Right.
And you will find that some areas you're doing amazing.
Yes.
Some you're barely getting by.
Right.
And this is a context where you get a lot of leaders celebrated in public and their family members are rolling their eyes.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, there you go. Their kids want nothing to do with them. They don't have a relationship with their parents. That is a reflection of your leadership. That's first lead yourself, then lead in where your domain. Your domain is your home. And home could be, you might live alone, but you have family. That's your first place where your leadership and who you are should exemplify. I always want that. I feel people would experience you differently, but I think if people spend a certain amount of time, they should all be finishing each other's sentence when they refer to a question about me or who I was and what they experienced me. The song should sound, I don't like funerals. First of all, I don't attend unless I really have to. But one of my pleasures is when I've gone to a funeral of someone who might have been in a leadership or community space or whatever. And the theme about their journey would have been a song. You heard someone from childhood or their college, and then you hear someone from their family or their niece and their granddaughter. Sort of the theme, like the words, my choice of words might differ. There was a theme that you can hear of their character.
Yes.
And Modesta, to add to that, I had the triple I effect on leadership, which is impact, influence, and income. And I say those three I's are, they really represent me. But there's one I that we don't get to take with us, and that's the income. Whether we're considering income as the money, which everyone their income they think, but income is always, I would say, it's all the material things that you can heap up because of your impact and influence, right? That none of that I does not go anywhere with you, and no one cares after you're gone, except for what they get out of it or what they didn't get out of it. But your influence and your impact will last forever. People will talk about what you've done even when your name is not being mentioned, because that is the impact that you leave, that legacy, right? So your character, your whole person is attached to those two eyes. And what would it be? I go back to the Bible. What shall it profit a man to gain the whole world, but lose his own soul, right? And I know we're not here to preach on you, but that's a scripture that even if you don't believe in the Bible, you don't believe, you're not a Christian, you can understand. What is the use of me having all this stuff, but I'm alone, miserable, and lonely at the end of it?
Yeah.
You lost your soul. So 360 leadership, when I first met you, I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, you have done the thing to bring this to the world, because it's something I am so very passionate. First, lead yourself really and truly. How am I standing here with a team of 20 and I see them as people who get things, or just instruments that get stuff done to meet the goal? I would get so much more out of them. Number one, if you just want to be selfish, if I just recognize them as a whole being, if time off meant that I would have a fully engaged employee for half the day versus making her come to work because I did not approve her time off to go take her dog for cake and ice cream, because her dog is who's important to her. But like, I'm not giving her a day off to take her dog. That's just crazy. That's not your business. It's her mental health. It's what's important to her. As a matter of fact, legally, we're not supposed to know why people take days off unless they're doing a 3-day absence and they have to do paperwork because that's our protocol. But people do it as a courtesy, and then it's used against them only because we don't recognize that they're a 360, they're a whole individual, and everything matters to everything. And when we stop companies and organizations like Google, Modesta, that has decided to take this road of looking at each of their employees as a whole person with all the needs spiritually, they have provided childcare, they have provided gyms, they have provided therapy sessions that they can go into, psychologists on campus. They have generous time off packages. They have generous maternity leave packages. They value their people. And so people don't even want to leave those jobs, to where a growth path is only coming from. And again, they don't struggle because they're always opening new lanes of service to the globe, that they're always hiring people. So while you'd be like, oh yeah, if you treat all of them good, then they'll never leave, there won't be any place for people to grow. That's not true. They're even more creative. They're even more innovative. And so they're creating even more impact. And that means more bottom line, which is what? Income for the company.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, and in all contexts.
It is for you and me, but can we get leaders to get it?
Well, I mean, this is where data matters, right? People may not agree to this philosophy, they may not subscribe to it, but increasingly so, the stats prove it. This is the way to go. And there is no one size fits all. Like you were talking about a dog day off, go have cake. That's one person. Another person, they could be, they want a monetary recognition of sorts, and another person is time off. Another person, just the fact that their family could come in, and this is really kind of like relationships. We're because we're business people, we're putting it in a business context, but it could even be on the other side, that if you're talking about relationships and to build relationships that work and that matter, you're going to get to know that person. You get to know what is of interest to them. You won't always try to have your way. You'd like to learn what interests them, what irks them, what they need.
What's they're passionate about.
What do you need right now? And that relationship is all that richer when you make that investment.
Absolutely.
So this is what 360 leadership is. And the thing is, it's not a nice to have. It's not the new thing.
It's not new age.
Things, they, like Jed said, my daughter said, they will tell on you when you don't.
Those are the results.
When you compromise, it will show. A lot of the dysfunctions and the addictions and a lot of problems that we're facing are because people are not allowing themselves to show up fully and address every single area that they need to address for them to become more healthy.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying go at everything all at once, but one area at a time. Where you're doing well, ask yourself, what would it take to maintain?
Exactly.
Where you know you're compromising, ask yourself, if I'm a 2 on this, how do I work to get this to a 5? What would that look like? And then after a while, you get so I guess, systematized or used to handling yourself, considering yourself, taking care of yourself 360, that when opportunities come, that when situations arise that may compromise any one of those areas, you're immediately aware, and you're going to have the kind of conversations that will always steer you into your best and have you honor other people as well.
Exactly. What do you think about this? Because this is where you started. You said it starts with me.
Yeah.
I had a guest this morning. She said that your relationship with God is a reflection of your relationship, is reflected in the relationship with you. And your relationship with you reflects how you deal with other people. Is it that a lot of times, even leaders don't even value themselves enough to think they are worthy of being viewed as a whole being first? Because we cannot give what we don't have, right? How are you helping to empower leaders, number one, to really see themselves as a 360 leader, and that I should be my voice, my person, my character, who I am, my purpose, my mission in life matters? Because if you don't matter to you, you can't, the other people won't matter to you as much either, and it's vice versa. So how do you help them to really embody, to separate that, and also keep that, to let themselves be separate from the separation of their identity, and just lead in that whole space to begin with as the leader?
Absolutely. Listen, like you said, you cannot give what you don't have. And something that I have come to notice, not always from the leader, but those under a leader's influence that isn't doing so well, is if they haven't seen themselves as worthy, if they have never advocated for and fought for themselves, if they've just assumed a role and kept on going at it, they're not going to fight for you. You know, sometimes people say they won't fight for me. Do they stand up for themselves? They won't help me on my trajectory. Are they on a trajectory themselves?
Yes.
Right. So you went back and you were quoting the Bible, or you were making reference to this conversation that you had, and we're told to love others as we love ourselves. You don't love yourself.
That is exactly the problem.
Right? You don't love yourself, you won't love others. Or you don't love yourself well, you won't love others well. But then it takes a lot to go against the grain, because contemporary management and leadership theory, and even our society is built in such a way, especially when you get into leadership, you don't show vulnerability.
Exactly.
You don't show weakness.
You don't show up too much empathy, because then you're perceived as weak.
With you. When you get in that leadership seat, you will die with it. You cannot seem to be weak or need help. And because this is like, think of our societies. The father is infallible. Then the next one up is the mother, if there isn't a firstborn son. Sometimes even the mother is then ignored. Then, you go down the ranks according to age. And in society as well, they're the elders. So there's always this socialization to find yourself on the totem pole.
Yes.
And often when you start out, you're starting out small and insignificant, supposedly, according to society, until you make it, which is why people have this thing of, it's now my time to eat. I am now on the seat, right?
Yeah.
And what I've noticed working with leaders in the senior most positions in their fields is they often have the greatest challenges. And I'm talking about personal barriers to effectiveness, to leadership, to management, but they will never admit it. They will fire, they will leave jobs, they will hide, they will do whatever thing it takes than to admit. I'll tell you this, I have a lot of really high level leaders working with me from where I come from. And I'm in the States at the moment because I am removed from it all. Because they know their weakness will never be known. They would rather pay me personally than take advantage of their company's package,
resources, yes,
and a consultant, because then they won't get out there and they cannot be seen to be weak.
The question I have for that, though, is that a disadvantage, and is that additional work you're having to do with them? not that you will say, well, why pick me? Because this is what you serve. But that alone itself is a coachable opportunity. How do you address that mindset just to begin with?
The fact that they would come to me.
Yeah, that you will go completely outside of what they're to hide this, to hide that you are vulnerable.
So here's the thing, right? The chicken and the egg, which came first? Is it that they, right, have this issue and they need to be fixed, or is it that society has created this?
Created the monster?
And so obviously I can work with the individual and help the individual, but when it's a systemic concern, this is where things like this podcast exists. It's a mindset shift we need to have.
Yes.
Because what happens then is we let leaders do whatever they do until they fall. Oh, and then, oh, how the mighty fall. Oh, the fallen from grace. And we just thought they were they were never perfect. They have challenges, but they were not allowed to have safe spaces that would allow them
to talk about it.
And so, yes, with the individual, and sometimes it's a lot of work to have them allow themselves to be
vulnerable.
And the question is, okay, so the acceptance of allowing yourself to know that you're a 360 being, to know that you can only lead others as well as you lead yourself. John C. Maxwell, right? He says, everything rises and falls on leadership.
And it does.
Right? The extent to which your department, your organization goes, your family, your ministry goes, depends on your leadership. It's capped at your leadership, no matter the systems you have in place. No matter
there's a leak, it's coming from the top.
Right? And so helping them accept, oh my goodness, okay, I need to address. Do you know the number of childhood things you have to address before you actually get to the concern at the organization?
Come on.
You're dealing with people's childhood. You're dealing with their parenting and their life.
Yes.
You're dealing with bullying. You're dealing with perceptions. And when you get to them, and the question then isn't whether that's good or bad and whether they need to let go on. It's what could that look like for them in such a way that they feel safe to slowly come out, to slowly embrace that, which could look like accepting help, which looks like saying, I don't know, which looks like them clocking out at 5, which looks like, right? Slowly getting to that point where they feel more comfortable, and then they're able to do that for others.
Right.
A lot of concerns leaders have with their colleagues or direct reports, whatever, is actually a concern with them. Because if you are healthy as a leader and you can manage yourself well, self-regulate, and you have healthy boundaries, and you don't feel like your identity or your prospects are attached to it, then you're more likely to enforce that with others. But we think that person is a difficult person. That person, listen. That person isn't difficult to everyone. There's a way you can manage yourself as a leader to say, okay, this is how far you can go and no further. And you will be surprised what can change under your leadership.
Exactly.
You allow yourself to grow.
That's right. And that's why they're there.
Before addressing that, let's address you and the things that concern you. So a long way around to responding to, no, you cannot lead others better than you lead yourself. So then ask yourself, what does it take to lead myself well? Now, with the 4 levels of leadership, there's certain areas that you can go through, but each leader has a different situation and they can start at a different place. And to walk through that path. But the first thing is that mindset shift, and to give yourself permission to be to look at your life 360 and do the work you need to, so that you can be whole, you can be effective in your leadership and your impact.
Right. Because the only person you have control of is you. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to say person, the only thing.
That's
ever.
And even then you're struggling and pulling at yourself,
right? Exactly. Because you've been programmed, like you said earlier, and you don't realize how much of autopilot. So it takes all this self-awareness and work. Let's talk about your principle on extreme ownership. I love the quote, if it's to be, it's up to me. What does extreme ownership look like in your everyday leadership?
Thank you for asking that. And I'm going to take a different domain of life to answer that question. I
Go
want
for it. This is your
I want
show.
to take
I'm
my
just here
marriage
to
as an
join
example.
you.
I want to take my marriage as an example because this is what I
Yes.
came to learn, right? When we get married, you're thinking we're doing this, and what I found is you can then get complacent in we and not take ownership as I.
Mhm.
So there can also be a lid placed on you
Yeah.
because you only aspire as high as we would go, or you could fall to as low as we would go.
Mm.
I realized because often, and again, I'm going into faith, people say it's God, then your spouse, then you, then your children. I was like, no, it's God, then me, then my spouse,
Yes.
then the children.
Yes.
Because first of all, I can't even love him as well as I love myself. So I have to love myself. But also, I'm a person who was called to a specific assignment on this earth, right?
Right.
That doesn't change because I chose to get married and have children.
Nope. Nope. I just
Yeah,
posted
God
that.
is still going to ask for his return on investment. Yes. And I'm not going to say, but Lord, I'm somebody's wife. And he's the head of the family. And can't you see the dynamic there? That was going to challenge me.
Yes.
So then it really reinforces saying, if it's to be, it's up to me. And another context where I was having a hard time being accepted, not necessarily as a leader, but just this whole dynamic business. And I was young, and I was around the globe doing these things, and it made a certain context I was in uncomfortable. And I thought, I don't need this. I'm going to remove myself and just do me. And I ran a group of 5 companies, and they were doing well, and we were going global. I felt I don't need this. And a friend came to me and said, listen, this is what I know. You're the leader, and they're the people you're meant to influence to get to where this nation is supposed to go. So if
Wow.
you're a leader, please find whatever you need in your leadership toolkit to make it work. So sometimes that looks like working with people whose influence they're more receptive to. I don't have to be the show. I don't have to be a face of something. So some context, I am influencing the influencers. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, the job is being done.
It's
In
being
some
done.
contexts,
Yes.
right, I am the face of things. In some contexts, I get to contribute towards board or policy, right? And so what ends up coming out in the system, then, I got to contribute towards that. So
Yes.
this is what I then came to learn. Whatever the outcome is, I need to remind myself, what is the ultimate outcome? Who am I taking this journey with? What is the reason we're doing this together again? Right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you can take it personal. You can
Yes.
and ask yourself, given who I am dealing with, how do I need to? Because I'm the only person I can control. How do I need to manage myself so that I can have this person collaborate with me so that we can achieve our ultimate aim?
Right.
So
Exactly.
in whatever situation, if it's to be, it's up to me. Sometimes that means I'm marching forward and doing the thing.
Yes.
Sometimes it means I'm taking a back seat, even when I knew that if I showed up, I could. But if that is not being received, I'll take a back seat, and I'll find out who then would be the voice that would listen to.
Yes.
Sometimes that doesn't look like me being active in the program. That looks like me contributing toward policy.
Yes. Exactly.
Sometimes that looks like I'm not even a technical person. That looks like I'm doing awareness in the media.
Yes. Yes.
But either way, if anything is to move forward, and wrapping this up with the reference to my marriage, I just thought of my single mother of 5 and what she was able to achieve for us. And I'm the 4th of 5.
Wow.
And then I'm thinking, my husband and I, and we just have 2 children. Would I ever in the future say things didn't happen because, us? No, the kids are like, Mom, what about you? So then I realized if
Yes.
it's to be for me, it's up to me. If it's to be for my impact, it's up to me. And it's up to me to manage myself, to influence in any way that would serve the cause. If it's to be for my children's future, it's up to me. That whatever that looks, does that look like managing myself in a certain way as a wife? Does that look like getting a support system around me, because I can't always be the present mother
Come on.
because of the career I've chosen and the path that I've chosen.
Yes.
But either way, I have to look at myself in the mirror, and I have to account to my Lord that that thing which you entrusted me with, Lord, I did my
I
utmost.
did my best. Yeah.
Yeah, I showed up.
So controversial a little bit. The question I have for you,
Yeah.
there is a theory that is perpetrated throughout social media. And here's the thing, leadership is all about this. That's why I love that you brought up your relationship as an example, because I was going to ask for anyway.
Uh-huh.
But there's a theme that goes around that the person who truly loves you and the person who meant to be in your life
Yeah.
is going to challenge you, is going to push you, is going to drive you, and da, 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 da. And if they're not doing that, they don't really love you. Well, listen, guys, I was married once, and I got married at age 22, and we separated and was in the process of divorce at age about 35, just over 35. So that was already, we had been half my life together at that time. And I remember as we got more seasoned, all the pushing and pushing and pushing I did, I would say I was convicted about it. And I wasn't too harsh. I was very, I mean, my ex-husband would say, you were very supportive. You were loving. You tried to make sure I did the best. I just didn't want to do it. You know, that's what he would say. And he said it after, because I apologized long after we were married and divorced. I said, I am so sorry, because I learned better. I know better. And so I may have, in my opinion, I might have broken something in him that I felt me apologizing years later, when for him, or maybe for most people, would say it doesn't really matter. And him, he's saying, you didn't do that. I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe it'll come up later and you'll want to strangle me, and you'll be sitting in a therapy session and be like, yes, she did it to me.
Yeah.
So if there's any shot, I want you to know, I recognize it could have harmed you, and I recognize that it was my error. Of course, I didn't know any better. I was trying to do my best, and that's what he would say to me. But just because you didn't know, you're still accountable, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that as a woman now, who is single and courting, not dating. Dating is when you're trying to figure out a bunch of people. Courting one person. My approach is very different. I pray, like you said, if it's up to me, if it's going to be, it's going to be up to me. So I am responsible for me and my call and my purpose. In the union, though, I believe God would not put you together with someone who you don't complement each other, and you don't support each other, and you don't. And I say compliment because my husband could be an attorney and I could be an OBGYN. But somehow our mission and purpose for why we do what we do is so understanding, or at least we understand and have allowed ourselves to submit to that. This is the calling on my wife's life. This is the calling on my life. If that's not it, then you're probably not in the right relationship. But for me to have to tell my husband, oh, you should be doing this. Why are you not following through with this? Why? If you're doing that, I don't know that you're helping them either, because they haven't decided if it's going to be, it's up to me, and there's nothing you can do to make them. So tell us a little bit about application wise. What is your take on trying to get people to do things and be things, even if it's a coaching client? Sometimes it's not your husband, it's the person that's paying you 25 grand for 8 months of coaching that wouldn't do any of the things they say they're going to do. You can't make them. That's my take. What's your take?
My take is you can not only can you not, if you're to bother to try, should not.
You should not.
Because whatever it is that you take on at the beginning, you'll have to continue with it.
Come on now. Ooh, that's deep.
That is so, I'm goosebumping just the fact that I
Ooh,
said
that's deep, because you just took me down a whole.
Continue. That's how it'll continue.
Yes.
Which is why take your time and assess what you're really dealing with.
Right.
Take your time and assess that. And I want to juxtapose this with another realization that came to me later, is sometimes for both of you, you become that person you're meant to be along the way.
Come on now.
Right? So they may not have whatever it is that they need for themselves, by the way. And then this is what we're talking about. You're not even saying they need to get anywhere for you. It's just for themselves.
It's for themselves.
We're doing life together. We're impacting each other here.
Yeah.
So there are times people come along, right? They're developing and their seasons, but there's some people that are non-starters from the beginning.
Come on
And
now.
you need to identify that. You need to call it what it is. I just wish we would just be open to calling it. Be
Yeah.
sober-minded. Call this thing what it is.
Call a thing a thing. Yeah.
Stop pretending it is not and then dancing all around it. Call it what it is. And ask yourself. I was recently asked this question. If this were to continue this way for the rest of my life, would I be okay with it? And I would highly recommend you ask that question before you get into it at all.
You know what, Modesta? I also apply that when I'm doing my group coaching sessions for those who are going into the workforce. I coach the same way. I'm like, if you have a miserable experience going into a job interview process from that phone call, it's chaos. They couldn't figure out the time right.
Yeah.
Just know that you're going
Downhill from
into
here.
a company that where disorganization and chaos is normal.
Yeah.
Usually people don't show up at their worst when they first meet you. They show up at their best. So
And if that's their best,
come on now, know that it gets worse. And your question is the main one. Are you going to be fine with this? Because a lot of us want to change people and change things around us. But the only thing that changes is you. This is why 360 leadership is so important. And we're going to go into the 4 levels of leadership development because people, you don't know what's going to happen. Let's say you date and court someone for 2 years and they were this proactive, but you're now 3 years down and it's not. You get to choose whether you're staying out because you didn't get married. But once you got married, I really think you got to work it out. And that's where your self-leadership ability of owning your stuff is going to matter, because the adaptability without you pointing fingers and fighting, but being able to focus on why you were there and what you're put on this earth to do to begin with, and then why you're in that relationship, and you're able to, from a place of self-awareness, spiritual awareness,
yeah.
and emotional intelligence as well, you'll be able to make a proper evaluation. And I hate to say this again, for yourself, because here's the thing, everything about you, you give to the people you supposedly love,
Yeah.
care about, and or serve. Meaning, if you might not love the people in the community, but you serve them. So if you're serving them, if you're okay, you're able to pour. You can't pour anything when you're on E, right? So you need to be filled and then the overflow. So here's where I want you to give us the 4 levels of leadership development itself: people, organizational, and industry. It's so powerful, very, very powerful. Can you walk us through what leadership looks like at each of these levels? Because I believe it's going to answer some of the things we brought up in our deep discourse here.
I think so. And thank you so much. I mean, that's such a brilliant way to transition into it, because I wanted to talk about what does it look like when you're working with somebody and you feel like this is a non-starter, whether it's a relationship,
Right.
professional or personal. And I think that this will be a good place to talk about it as well. What you should look out for, kind of questions to ask.
Yes, those are definitely questions we want you to answer. And I thought these pillars would be the spot. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the 4 levels of leadership basically say that we go through different levels and they feed into each other. So first of all, it starts with self-leadership.
Come on.
You can't lead people better than you lead yourself. You can only pour out of, what you have. If you've never advocated for yourself, you're not going to advocate for someone. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to love somebody. It's not. You cannot give what you don't have.
That's right.
And the most basic, honestly, qualities you're looking to grow in self-leadership is character, it's competence, and it's discipline.
Character, competence, and discipline.
The most basic.
She said this are basic. This is why our society, I hate to say this, is struggling, because those basic ingredients are they're not being nurtured and they're not maturing.
Yeah. Where are you going? How do you have the audacity to direct somebody else's? And by the way, speaking of people existing in a 360 reality, do we understand the responsibility of leadership? That there is another human being
Come on.
that you're going to influence and potentially impact the trajectory of their lives or their self-esteem.
Hello, Disruptor. Thank you so much for joining me and my friend Modesta Mahiga on this two-part episode of 360 Leadership. We're so happy that you joined us. Listen, I've got a couple things I need to run by you because we definitely are going to move over to part two. But first, listen, I've been told by my team that we have over 13,000 followers on Apple Podcasts. And I know that we have between 8,000 and 15,000 of you downloading Mindset Mastery Moments weekly, and we are so grateful. I am delighted and absolutely honored that I'm able to bring you this content. No matter how busy it gets, I'm always making time to sit down with a powerhouse global thought leader to bring you Mindset Mastery Moments. But here's the thing, I need a favor from you. I want to know that you're listening. I want to hear from you. And we want to welcome you to our Mindset Mastery 360 community. We have a Facebook group that I encourage you to join. But here's the thing, you don't even have to do all that. I will get you in there if you email me directly at info@alisawhyte.com. That's ALISAWHYTE.com. Send me a quick email. Let me know that you love Mindset Mastery Moments, and I will get you connected with all the deets on being connected with our community. Also, wherever you're listening to this, whether it's Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and all the beautiful platforms that we're honored to be connecting with you on, leave us a comment and let us know how this podcast is transforming your mindset. And then the other thing I want to invite you to do is to ensure you connect with all our guests. Listen, I can't wait to get you over to part 2 of my episode with Modesta. So head on over there and I'll see you real soon. Until then, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become.